So at all of the Complete College convenings that so many of you have attended in the past, we have always talked about the what of college completion, and those are our game changer strategies. In today's event, we are trying to finally talk about the how, and that is why we are introducing to you our we believe statements and our new scaling standards. In the sessions that you've just seen, you have heard about the important work that has occurred when the scaling standards are applied to the game changer strategies. So what I'd like to do now is pull it all together to answer the question of what does it take for you to apply this work in your state? The answer is leadership. What Complete College America has seen across our 8 years are that the states who are making the greatest gains in college completion are the states who have strong leaders who act with urgency to drive change. And we know that strong leadership is essential at all levels, from systems to the institutions, across all sectors in the state. And that is why we have asked all of you to build standing Complete College Alliance teams that will be the leaders who will drive this work. For this group, we are asking that these standing Complete College Alliance teams be the impatient reformers who are urgently driven to effect change, who represent the diversity of the state in terms of the sectors and the different levels of expertise, who will jointly lead and collaborate on this work. We cannot all act in our own silos if we want to reach the numbers that we need to reach and help the students that we want to help. We are asking that this group work towards scalable and sustainable change by accelerating the pace of your efforts. So you're going to be hearing more today about how to do that. And I know that so many of you are just now beginning to develop the teams as we've asked you to formalize them, but there are some states who are already doing this work. So what I'd like to do today is introduce you to people from Georgia who already have a team model on what it takes to work together to effect completion. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you our Georgia team. Wendy Kallina from Kennesaw State, Robert Todd and Tristan Denley from the university system, and Kathryn Hornsby from the technical college system. Welcome. So Robert, we're gonna start with you. Talk to us a little bit about Complete College Georgia and what that has meant at both a state and system level.
So you said breaking down the silos, and that's a big part of what we had to do. I think what has been really critical for Georgia is that we began first by getting the governor involved. We had the state leadership through the governor and the governor's team to create an initiative called Complete College Georgia, and also a mandate that went along with that. So in the beginning, as we were creating at the USG and the TCSG, the technical college system, we were creating our own internal teams, but at the same time, we had the governor working with us to make certain that the entire state was on board. So the internal teams, absolutely critical. They have to be strong. They have to have a balance of policy and implementation work. But then top down, got us started in the beginning. The governor began by kicking things off with a meeting with the presidents of all of the institutions in Georgia. So they all heard about it within a month of Complete College Georgia becoming a reality. Then very shortly after, there was a meeting with the BPAAs. And then shortly after that, with faculty and other members of the process, so that what started as top down then also became a feed from below as well. So I like to think of it as kind of a circular motion, and that's what helped, I think, break down the silos. Not instantly. So, we're in our 5th year now, and at this point, we're seeing tremendous progress. But as we moved along, we had a lot of barriers we had to approach to try to break down the silos, like creating regional meetings for schools so that faculty also were brought up into the process more firmly. So that's how I like to see it, is that we have this circle going now, and it's kind of like an ecosystem, and now we're just trying to build on that momentum. We're going from what we called Complete College Georgia 1.0, and wait for it, Complete College Georgia 2.0. And that's what we're doing in our next 5 years. And that plan involves taking the data-driven results that we've gotten so far and then pushing it forward to try to reach that goal in 2025. Plenty more has gone on in this process. We have had seed grants to institutions to help get them to tackle those critical problems on remediation and guided pathways and 15 to finish. And we have ongoing training, including a series this year of remediation and advising academies that are going to be leading up to a wonderful event in the spring that's going to kind of cap off that first year of CCG 2.0. So we feel the momentum going from that rotation, that ecosystem, and we're just pushing forward with it and going with the energy, the momentum.
Okay, great. So Robert's role is really that coordination up to the state and down through the institutions in the system. Now, Tristan, you are brand new to Georgia as the new Chief Academic Officer for the system. Congratulations. So talk to us about what it's meant to you to come into a system that is already structured, where there's a Complete College Georgia team that you can work with on a regular basis, and then talk a little bit about what that means for your future vision for this work.
Yeah, so just as Robert said, this work has already been going on in Georgia for several years, and so the foundation for that work has already been laid. Well, what's interesting is that each school has sort of taken the strategies and has used those as sort of maybe a menu that they've gone through and chosen. So which of these are we going to do? Just earlier this week, actually, I met with all the chief academic officers and the student affairs officers, and what we did was we began with the data. What a surprise to see that system-wide, all of the phenomena that you've seen today and all the phenomena that you've actually seen me talk about before that existed in Tennessee, they also exist in Georgia, and they also exist at all of the institutions, all the way from the two-year schools all the way through the research ones. And so the challenge to those schools this time around was to say, this is not a menu which is a pick and choose. Instead, this is a recipe approach. My challenge to them was to say, how on your institution's campus are you going to implement a coherent strategy that hits on all of these different facets all at once in a way that makes sense to your campus and a way which actually makes sense to your students and their life as they go through their degree programs. So it was incredibly advantageous for me to walk in and to have that structure already in place, have all of the strategies very familiar to the campuses, but now the next way forward is, as I say, not to think of them individually, but to think of them as a coherent structure, a coherent whole.
Okay, great, thank you. So I know that we can try to coordinate change at state and at system levels, but if it doesn't get down to the institutions, it's meaningless, right? So Wendy, talk to us about, I know you've got a great story of being an impatient reformer. So talk to us about what you've done at Kennesaw State to take a requirement, a reporting requirement, and turn it into something real that was a priority, that made sense, and how you pulled a team together and helped lead that.
Has everybody seen Chopped? You know the show? If you heard Tristan, he talked about a recipe, and then he said he started every meeting with data. That is opening the basket. That is how my job feels. And I think that is key to how we're moving along in Georgia. What happened to me is 3 years ago, Kennesaw State University consolidated with Southern Polytechnic State University. The good part about that is we were able to direct a substantial amount of money towards student success. The not so good part of it was that we had some duplicate but not quite, and so we put people in different spots to give the student success initiatives room to grow. I happened to land one of those spots. Now I have a question for you before I finish my story. How many of you are IR? This is the interactive part. How many? Okay, David, hi. Okay, I just see a few hands. How many of you know your IR person? How many of you know your IR person's pet's or children's name? Okay, I'm fine with that. My background is IR, and as Tristan said, starting with data is the same way that I start my Complete College Georgia meetings. What happened is I walked into an institution, and it was time for CCG reporting. So I sat with the provost, a couple of deans, and they're like, okay, this report's due in a couple of months. Well, that didn't work too well for me, because as I started going through the report, I was learning so much, not only about the institution that I came from, I was learning a tremendous amount about the new institution we had become at Kennesaw State. So as we started working through this, and I went out to all the different places on campus and said, tell me what you're doing. What kind of data do you have? And people were bringing out things nobody's ever asked. You know, I collect this every year. What do I do next? So we started these conversations. But what has happened here is, first, and this is my disclaimer, I had the total support of my provost. Okay, absolutely. Wendy, do what you think needs to be done. The second piece of it is what I've said before in presentations, work above your pay grade. Work above your pay grade. When you say, is that and other duties as assigned? Well, take on that duty. Because what you'll find out is if you'll embrace this, you will find like-minded, we're all like-minded, I'm preaching to the choir here. But if you can show people that you can affect change, that you can show people that you're willing to stand up and talk to a group of vice presidents, of deans, of chairs, any administrators or faculty, and you're ready to talk about what we're doing without fear, to show data, to take time to explain data. That's something that I've learned, a lot of time to explain the data. We know what RPG is. We talk about retention, progression, graduation, credit hours. We know this. But do the people that we're depending on to make these things happen know these? The first time I sent out a letter to all the deans asking about, this is my fault, please send me your CCG strategies. This recipe that Tristan was talking about, I had a few deans go, remind me what CCG, Complete College Georgia, is again. That was just 2 years ago. Now I am collecting the emails because it's that report time again. But instead of just being a report, the deans are filling out amazing pieces of a survey that I put out with great detail and saying, and ask this person, and ask this person. Oh, and don't forget to call that person to get the rest of it. So I think, I know that Kennesaw is on the verge of transformation, and part of it is sharing the data. Absolutely sharing the data in the way that it's understandable, and the other is sharing a language.
Great, thank you. Kathryn, so with the technical college system, you've taken your own approach of working with your institutions and trying to make sure that everybody is on board and that this is an ongoing priority. So talk to us a little bit about some of your annual events, your annual reports, and what you do to keep this at the forefront.
Yes, Mike. Well, I want to make a few comments to Robert, and we always enjoy working with our university system. I work with our technical college system. This is a 2-year open access institutions, and as those of you that are here from community colleges around the country know, that we do have some of our unique challenges as we work with our students every day. But one of the best things that came out of Complete College was when in 2011, we sat down and wrote our Complete College Georgia plan together. That was the best way that we broke down silos between our different colleges around the state. Because even though we're both in higher ed, we have different boards, so we weren't talking. So together, we wrote a plan, and we've been doing this activity since 2011. We put a lot of time and a lot of energy into the project. First of all, as we wrote the plan, we realized, maybe we should have our colleges write their own plans. By doing this, they could evaluate their data. We are very blessed in our state. We have centralized data systems, which I know makes this a little bit easier, but we were able to work on that data system, improve it, and be able to provide those reports to our colleges. Working directly with IR, working with our data system, they were able to review their data, make decisions based on data, make decisions for their students. What better way could change really happen? So they've been working on plans since 2012. But even with those plans, you have to do improvement plans based on your data. As you know, sometimes your enrollment grows, sometimes your graduates grow. So we brought in professionals to train our colleges how to review their data and how to evaluate change. So the plans have been probably one of the best ways to bring our colleges together. We work on those together, we share together, and one of the best ways we share together is through our Student Success Academy each year. We started this initiative due to the university system back in 2012. We got together and began sharing things that our colleges were doing. They are doing some wonderful activities, and I don't know about your colleges, but ours in Georgia are just a little bit competitive. So they turn in proposals 6 months ahead of time to be able to share what they're doing with Complete College Georgia. So we're looking forward to another one of those this year where they will be able to learn from each other. We bring in faculty, we bring in deans, vice presidents, presidents, and of course some of our students to share from their perspective what's working and what's not. So with all that are the primary ways that we have tackled Complete College Georgia from the two-year college perspective.
Great. So I want to ask all of you, because in sharing with the folks in the room about Complete College Georgia, I don't want you just to hear about what they're doing. I want them to become a model to all of you. So I would love for each of you to think about just what is one tip that you would have of how to lead, how to work together, how to be a team. What's one tip that you would share with each of these states? And for each of you, as Georgia and other similar states may be a model, our goal for you is that you will become the model in your state, and you will become a model for other states who are not doing this work. So, one tip in any order. And Tristan, I'll start with you.
Sure. So my one tip is that although sometimes when you hear people talk about this work, they think of faculty as the barrier, I think faculty are the solution to this work. And if you begin by thinking of faculty as being the solution to this work, then that is the serious to scale and success.
I love it. Wendy?
If it's not you, find your empirical storyteller. Find someone who can make those data come alive. Find somebody who can make those data, to Tristan's point, come alive to faculty and not just other data people.
Great. Robert?
May I have 2 tips? Okay. So one is use the data to prove your case where you need to, because the data will do just that, and it will do it for faculty and for the leaders. And the other is that in each campus, look for a champion. We need folks like this lady here in yellow on the campus that can make this happen, because we can't be at every campus every single day.
Great. Kathryn?
One of the major things I learned, I too spent some time in IR in my life, and I realized when talking to our groups that I was just killing folks with too many initiatives. I was giving our schools too many projects. So by rolling it into student success, I was able to show our colleges that no, you don't have 5 projects or 10 new projects. You have one new project, and that is to focus on student success throughout our state.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Please join me in giving them a round of applause.